Hello everybody, welcome back to the Unversed podcast. Danny here, and today we're going to be talking about Fire Punch. So I believe it was Mother's Basement video like a long time ago when he brought up Fire Punch, and I was like, oh, that seems cool. Let me check it out. And I finished it in like 2 sittings, 83 chapters, and wow, what an experience that is. It's just crazy. So many questions very early on in the manga. Very little gets answered, and it just leaves you wanting more. Like when I was reading it, I was like around chapter 60, and I'm like, oh my god, I hate to see this end. You know, I'm coming up to the end, and it's just so interesting. However, I will say I do not like the ending. I do think it did take a branch of the story where it just didn't feel right with me. As far as the world is concerned, the world that this story is written in is so interesting, and for them to deviate from this world and to focus on something else, it's kind of saddening. There's a lot of elements of I Am a Hero and Gantz, mainly with the comparison to Gantz is just the amount of mystery in this world environment. Like, why are they doing this? Why are people, living this situation? What's going on with the world? What year even is it? There's just so many questions about this. And then from I Am a Hero perspective, it deviates from, like I was saying earlier, from the world, and it sort of focuses on a different path from what we were getting so far. And I was hoping that it would turn around and go a direction, which it kind of does, but not for the better, I don't think. It focuses on one point, which I find very weird, and it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right for the manga to end like this. So at the end of the day, I do highly recommend you read Fire Punch. It is such an interesting premise. You dive into this world, and I got hooked, man. I got really hooked. I didn't want to put this down at all. Multitasking. I was doing something, I'm reading this. I just had to finish it. I had to see it. So the main premise of this story involves our main character Agni and his sister Lena. They have powers called blessings, and they both have regenerative powers, and they use this to chop their own limbs off. Right? They get a decent amount of collection. And then they go into their village, essentially, and hands off pieces for people to eat. And right there, and I was like, whoa, like this is a already like strange premise right off the bat. Like, you have me interested. What's going on? And it's it's snowing. It's like a Game of Thrones type winter where it's just, we don't know if it's gonna stop, and it keeps getting colder. If you can't stay warm and eat, you're gonna die. And so they've been doing that for a while, and then here comes these group of soldiers who just need fuel and resources, and they look and they're like, oh, cannibals, and so they kill everybody. And then one of these soldiers, they have a blessing to have fire that doesn't go out until the intended target is dead, until they turn to ash, right? So he throws that on our main character Agni and everybody else. And because Agni can heal, the fire is not going out, right? It only goes out when you're dead. And he's just suffering through all this pain. Eventually he finds his sister, who has a weaker regenerative ability than he does, and not really, I guess, the willpower to continue. So she perishes, she dies, but she tells her brother Agni, live. And through that's what drives him to stay alive, for the revenge of the death of his sister and village. And eventually, years, that's the crazy thing about this manga, is if it doesn't tell you, you don't know how long time has passed. right? Because when we see the character Agni, eventually he gets accustomed to the flames, and now he can move around and actually talk and stuff. And he's walking around. You don't really think it's been that long of a time period, but in actuality, it has. Like, it's maybe even a decade. You know, there's really not a lot of premise, because once we do see this character again, who set fire to his village, he doesn't even look the same. You know, he's aged so much. So it's like, how much time has passed? Like, what's going on? You know, it's the Wolverine factor, right? If you have a healing factor, you can live forever, essentially. And so, yeah, he goes wandering around, and he wants revenge, so he goes and kills people. Like, he uses the fire as his weapon to extinguish those who get into his way, and eventually he gets these followers, and he meets these strange individuals, and he gets the nickname Fire Punch. And that is the premise, the main essential premise of this manga. And I really don't want to get into more detail because it will really spoil a lot. I will say art direction is amazing. Like, the art style complements this world so well. The art style to me is like to Dorohedoro, right? Dorohedoro, the art style really encompasses that world, that like atmosphere, the way people feel and think, the way society has opinions about the different classes there are, right? Between non-magic users and magic users, and even the devils, right? You could feel like that hierarchy through this visual perspective. And it's the same here with Fire Punch, right? The way it's drawn, very like essentially light sketch work, essentially, right? Nothing too dark in the ink for lines. And man, when you get those spreadsheets of like action sequences or just anything going on in the world, it's really, really strong. Like the thumbnail I chose for this episode is a really strong one. It's, for an audio's perspective, it's Agni, right? And he's on fire. There's smoke everywhere around him, right? Next to these dead soldiers that he just defeated. And surrounding him are people he rescued and saved, kneeling and praying, worshiping to him as a god because of what he's done, what he's capable of doing, and you really feel that presence in that chapter and that certain page alone, and literally the more you get into the manga, the more questions you truly have, because it starts to explain subtle things about the world. And even like the first 2-3 chapters, like we get a couple flashbacks here and there, and just certain terms that get thrown about. It's crazy. It's a very mature environment and read. If you're looking for something like that, this is definitely what it is. It's not your typical shonen manga at all. He's not the hero that we all want him to be. In a sense, his character, there is so much to compare this manga to that are really great content. I already said Gantz, Dorohedoro, I Am a Hero, great mangas. They are very strong. You even have subtle hints of, I guess, Guts from Berserk with this character Agni. There's just so much depth and thought into the character and the world. It's amazing, and I'm sad to see it end, and I'm also sad to see it end the way it does. There is a certain turning point late in the manga that really changes everything, from character motivation to focus on the world and to just the direction of the manga as a whole, which I am still iffy on. I loved where it was going in the beginning, and to see it change is kind of sad, because it is the typical route for shonen heroes, right? To take this certain route, but we don't get that with Agni. He does what he has to do, and then when his choices are changed, he adapts to it, and that's really where this manga goes at the end of the day. But yeah, so 83 chapters. It's not a long read, guys. It's not tough. It captures you very fast. I don't remember the last manga that caught me really fast like this was Promised Neverland, which is how strong the first chapter is. You know, I believe it's chapter 0 if you read it online. But yeah, it's very strong. Like, halfway into the chapter, I was like, what is going on? Like, what is happening with these characters? And then you get to the end of it, and then you read chapter 1, and it's just like, yeah, no, I'm definitely going to read this. This is probably my favorite manga that I've recently read for the reviews. Let me pull up the list real quick, but yeah, I really can't think of anything else that I enjoyed much like this as of recent. You know, just going through the list real quick. I mean, Black Lagoon sure was good, but I still have like my ifs and my problems with it. And here it's like, that's more of in the background, because just, God, everything that's happening here in Fire Punch is crazy. And there are time skips, and what we see happen, you know, we finally get a glimpse of the world after these time skips and stuff. Like, oh my God, like, it's so much has changed, and it makes me wish we continued that path of going down, exploring more of this world, you know, answering some questions. We got subtle answers to questions, and we did get like some black and white answers to questions, but still, let's go more into it, because I still had questions even when we got answers. You know, it just never stopped. And you know, this mangaka did a great job of structuring everything for this story. And again, I am sad to see it end under 100 chapters. You know, I don't think this could get an anime. As much as I think it would be great to see, it's just the niche in itself. There's no way it's going to be animated, sadly, because if it gets animated, you know, it gets to a bigger audience. And what's crazy is I didn't read this sooner. You know, I didn't read this when it was ongoing. This was like a sleeper hit, I think. Because I don't really see anybody talk about this manga. Again, like, I don't even know if like a year or two ago, maybe, when I saw one of Mother's Basement's videos, I don't even think he was talking about Fire Punch. It was a sponsored ad for Viz, I think, because when Volume 1 came out. And yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to say right now. Adam's reading it, so next time he's out here, hopefully we can get together and just do a spoiler alert for this, because there's really a lot more I want to talk about, but it's spoiler heavy, you know, so I just really can't get into it here, because I want you guys to experience it before, you know, you get any spoilers of it. So yeah, guys, read Fire Punch. Like, my God, I was not expecting any of this. Like, Fire Punch, I was like, oh, okay, he looks cool. You know, his design looked cool on the volume cover. I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. Let's see let's see what it's about. Typical shonen? No, not at all. And I think that's the best for it. So that is pretty much all I have to say again, guys, for Fire Punch. Thank you for listening. And let us know your thoughts. You know, if you do check out Fire Punch, let me know what you think. Like, I want to hear people's opinions about this. This is definitely should be on everybody's must-read list, for sure. And you can email us your thoughts and questions at unversedpodcast@gmail.com. And you can follow us on social media at unversedpodcast, anywhere you go on social media. And as always, we will talk to you next time.
Cha-ra-ra-ra, 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 chan cha-ra-ra-ra, chan cha-ra-ra-ra-ra-ra-ra-ra-ra-ra-ra-ra-ra, chan chan。ジャックが仲間になった。